Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Bushman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the individual life path forecast for the new moon solar eclipse that's happening on October 14th or 15th, depending on where you live within the world. So we have officially entered eclipse season. So this is big energy. And now with these eclipses, we have an eclipse on the 14th, 15th, obviously, the new moon solar eclipse that we'll be talking about today. And then at the end of the month, I believe on the 29th, we have a lunar eclipse. So we'll talk about that as it gets closer. But these eclipses are big energy. And so this new moon eclipse could be bringing in a new storyline that we'll be working with for the next 6 months, next year, or for the next 18 months. And the eclipse at the end of the month, which we'll go into more detail about as it gets closer, has a likelihood to potentially close something out, close out a cycle we've been moving through for the last 6 months or a year or 18 months. And so you'll know as it pertains to your own storyline, sort of how it's affecting you, how it's coming in. But this new moon solar eclipse, again, has the potential to sort of unfold over the next 6 months or up to a year, potentially. And so pay attention to what comes in for you. Now, you may not see it come to full fruition or hit you like a lightning bolt on the day of. However, you can kind of come back to this reading potentially and see it as what was initiated, what was something that came in sort of as an understanding that, okay, this is the storyline. This is the seed that the story is going to be planted around. Because you'll have some kind of indication. It's very likely that you'll have some kind of indication as far as what this storyline is going to be about. So again, it's going to be an unfolding. So be patient with yourself as you move through it. Be open to what and who comes in for you over the coming months, because it's all going to be relevant and it's all going to play into a bigger storyline. So without further ado, let's take a look. Fellow Life Path 4s. Okay, so this new moon solar eclipse is bringing in some pretty intense energies for us. So we're working with the energies of the 8 and the 9, and we're working with the animal wisdom message from Black Swan. So let me just start with Black Swan. There's something here that has been potentially weighing on your mind. That's been very heavy. That's been something maybe you've been thinking about, can't stop thinking about, kind of overanalyzing, going down that rabbit hole, tripping yourself up. There's something here that is going to come to a head potentially under this eclipse. It has to, because it's holding you back and it's keeping you stuck in a loop. And so there potentially could be something emotional that comes up for you around this time, or again, over the course of the next 6 months to a year, that's going to have you really face whatever this is and I guess deconstruct it and see, like, what is the actual fear? Is it an irrational fear? Is it an actual fear that you can face, that you can overcome? Or is it an irrational fear that you're kind of just making more like bigger and scarier because you're putting the energy into it, but it hasn't actually happened and it may not happen, that sort of thing. But there's definitely something here that is from the shadow side, right? The shadow self, that you might not even really know what it is that's kind of lurking beneath, but that keeps bringing up like this, again, sort of irrational fear or this anxiety around doing something or saying yes to something or change or whatever the case may be, but there's something there. And because it's 4 energy, right? Like Life Path 4, there's something, a lot of times that these sort of deeper, darker sort of, I don't want to say deeper, darker energies, but like these deeper, darker seated sort of thoughts oftentimes stem from something emotional, some kind of experience that we had that was emotionally challenging. And because the 4 can be so solution focused, a lot of times we'll bypass the emotions and detach from those to get to the solution. And so it's times like these during an eclipse where if there's unresolved trauma or unresolved deeper emotional scarring, it can absolutely come up around these eclipses to be dealt with and worked through and acknowledged so that it doesn't keep holding us back, so it doesn't keep tripping us up. So there definitely could be something here that we are meant to feel, right? We're meant to pause and move through, because it's going to come out one way or another. And one way that it can typically come out for fours, especially, is mental, right? Like overthinking, overanalyzing, like not feeling, or having self-doubt, right? That sort of thing. And so this can be a good time to kind of take a closer look at that. Now, what's interesting here is we're working with the energy of the 8 and the 9. And so with this, there's definitely something around career that could be coming in for you, but it's career or purpose or money and resources, right? Or power and status that has to do with contributing towards or being a part of something bigger than self. So because we have this 9 energy tied to it, there's something almost spiritual associated with this work, this project, or this like business partnership or whatever, or whoever enters your life over the next 6 months to a year. There's something very destined, very fated that has to do with assisting us in stepping into something that's bigger than self, that has a greater purpose than self-serving. So you could see around this eclipse that you're asked to kind of purge or release anything kind of holding you back from stepping into something quite big. And then you might see that opportunity present once you've kind of done that shadow work, or once you kind of move through those emotional hurdles. You could see something present that, again, asks you to step into something that you may or may not feel ready for, but that's tied to career, money, power, influence, etc., but that is not strictly self-serving. It absolutely has this tie or this component of whatever it is, however you work with it, has to have a greater impact in some way. Not forced, but that the goal is to have a greater impact, but you're not necessarily trying to control what that looks like. You're responsible for the effort, not the outcome in this situation. There's definitely some kind of like spiritual or higher consciousness or soul-driven piece to this, where you may see an opportunity come in. And again, it's probably going to feel a little bit bigger than you, or you might not feel ready for it. And that's where Black Swan comes in to work through any of those hurdles, those irrational fears, those, the overanalyzing and tripping yourself up, so that you can step into whatever this is. And, I would say, let's just use an example of, let's say that you come into some kind of inheritance, because 8 energy can also include inheritance, right? So let's say that you come into some kind of inheritance. Because it's tied to the 9 energy as well, there's something here that you're meant to do with that money or that resource, if it's land or something like that, that is not strictly self-serving. That doesn't mean that you can't benefit from it or, reap the rewards of it or whatever. But it has to encompass more. It has to take into consideration more than just self. So just kind of keep that in mind. I know that's very specific, but really what this is asking you to do is any kind of money, any kind of opportunity, any kind of, shift in power or shift in influence or status. We are really being asked to have integrity with how we use that manifestation, right? Like, and it needs to be something that is not only self-serving, but serves others as well. It steps into a bigger field, right? And if we don't, then we could see that kind of spiral back or boomerang back towards us to clean up So again, let's say that, you get a raise and a promotion and you become a tyrant to work for. I don't know. You will see the repercussions of that. You will have to face those consequences. And so with this coming through on an eclipse, on a solar eclipse, a new moon solar eclipse, so new starts, new initiations, big powerful ones because it's backed by the sun. Even though the sun is being eclipsed out for a moment, it's going to come right back out and it's going to shine, right? And so there's definitely something that may seem like it takes a while to get off the ground, may seem like it's obscured or it doesn't make sense or you're not ready for, or et cetera, or it brings up a lot of these dark, deep rooted, like emotional pain or whatever that you've got to move through. You will move through it, right? If you put your mind to it and your heart into it and you seek the help that you need to do that. This has the potential to be incredibly successful, incredibly far-reaching, and can do an incredible amount of good. Because, again, this is a storyline that could potentially be unfolding over the next 6 months or a year. Your job, I would say our job, I'm also for, is to make sure that we are staying sort of aligned with our inner knowing and our inner compass and our heart center. And if we feel like we're moving more towards trying to control the outcome to an extreme, or we're really strictly just saying yes to whatever this is for strictly self-serving purposes, I think we need to rethink that and see how can we benefit from it, but how can others benefit from it as well. So there's a really big piece to this, and it's very dominant in this, like this sort of energy field, right? Because the 8 and the 9, 8 is powerhouse energy. It's all about, the manifest. And 9 brings in the spiritual component, but also the humanitarian energy. So there's definitely something here that we have the potential to be very successful at, and far-reaching success. But we have to maintain the integrity, and we need to make sure that we're looking for a greater solution to a greater problem that has the potential to serve not only self, but others, right? So, but definitely a lot coming in here as well about sort of overthinking. And if you find yourself in that spot where you're like, again, tripping yourself up by the overanalyzing, overthinking, sort of self-doubt, there's something emotional there that needs to be sort of needed out, right? Like that needs to be worked with. And so this would actually be a beautiful time to, find a therapist that works for you, find a healer, find someone who's unbiased to the situation that can help you to move through it so that it's no longer sort of tripping you up or causing that emotional conflict, right? So beautiful energy. Has a potential to be a very successful period for you 4s. But there's that really strong piece of the integrity and the humanitarian side. So just make sure that you're keeping that in mind as you're saying yes to whatever you say yes to and committing to whatever you're committing to. So hope it's a great one. Take care, 4s. Bye for now.